Hello students, welcome back to class. So I hope the previous lessons were a little interesting for you, some of the most important events in the 20th century, and then learning about what are centuries and how do we count centuries before the birth of Christ and after the birth of Christ. But now we're on lesson number 2, conversation. Okay, and so conversation between Emma and Steve. And so Emma is asking some questions to Steve about history. All right, so let's look at this. Emma, look, here's a quiz on events of the 20th century. Steve, oh, let me give it a try. I'm good at history. All right, first question. When did World War I begin? I think it began in 1917. Okay, and how long has the United Nations been in existence? Since Kennedy became president in 1961. Next question. How long was the Berlin Wall up? Well, they built it right after World War II, and it came down in 1989. So it was up for 44 years. How am I doing so far? Not very well. None of your answers are correct. All right? And so I will tell you the correct answers. Let's look at some of the vocabulary words. Quiz. Here's a quiz on events of the 20th century. Quiz is a small or short test. Okay, let me give it a try. Okay, that's a phrase that says, let me try. Let me try to answer the questions. And so we say, you want to try to do something? You want to try some food for the first time? Or you want to try doing something? You say, let me give it a try. So it's a phrase. Let me give it a try. I'm good at history. It means I know a lot about history. I understand. I'm good at it. I'm good at repairing cars. I'm good at English, speaking English. Okay, I'm good at math. Okay, so I'm good. It means that I have skills in that area. All right, first question. When did World War I begin? Okay, World War I, if you look at the box on your screen, World War I, 1914 to 1918, the war between the Allies, Great Britain, France, Russia, the United States, Italy, Japan, etc., and the Central Powers of Germany, Austria-Hungary. So World War I is the first war that involved many, many countries all over the world. And so it was Great Britain, France, Russia, the United States, Italy, and Japan were fighting against Germany and Austria and Hungary. Okay, and so he said, I think it began in 1917. That is not correct. It began in 1914. Okay, how long has the United Nations been in existence? How long has the United Nations been in existence? To exist means to live. Existence means how long, how many years has the United Nations been an organization? How many years have you been in existence? If you're 28 years old, you've been in existence for 28 years. It means you've been alive, or something has been up and running. All right, and so the United Nations, we won't talk about that. Steve says, since Kennedy became president in 1961. Kennedy was one of the famous presidents of the United States. His name was John Fitzgerald Kennedy. He was the United States president from 1961 to 1963, and he was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963. So that means somebody killed him. Somebody shot the president of the United States with a gun and killed him on November 22nd, 1963. Next question. How long was the Berlin Wall up? Means how long was the Berlin Wall standing? All right, and his answer, they built it right after World War II, and it came down in 1989, so it was up for 44 years. Okay, he talks about World War II. So World War I was the first war when so many countries all over the world fought against each other. And World War II was from 1939 to 1945. This was the war between the Allies, Great Britain, France, and the Soviet Union, and the United States, and the Axis, Germany, Italy, and Japan. So this was another world war where the Great Britain, France, the Soviet Union, Russia, and the United States were fighting against Italy, Germany, and Japan. So World War I and World War II. All right? And so let's look at the answers, just for your information. World War I began in 1914. The United Nations has been in existence since the end of World War II, since 1945. And the Berlin Wall was up for 28 years. All right? By the way, the United Nations is an organization. The United Nations is not a nation. But the United Nations is an international organization, and all of the countries all over the world, they are members of the United Nations. And as our note says, the United Nations was created after World War II to try to keep peace in all of the world. So the purpose of the United Nations is an organization that all of the nations of the world, Cambodia is a member of the United Nations, and they meet together and they discuss different problems in the world. The leaders, representatives of all of the countries, they meet together in New York City. It's where the office of the United Nations is. And they meet together and try to solve problems. If there is a war, if there's conflict, if there's difficulties in different countries, the United Nations meets together and they try to help solve the problems of the world so there will not be another world war. All right, so this is the conversation. I recommend that you practice saying this. If you want to record your voice and send it to me, you can, all right? But it's not necessary. But practice saying it anyway. All right, so that is the conversation lesson 2. And I will see you in the next lesson.